Have you ever met someone who made you feel completely safe, only to quietly change your life one day? Not through anger, not through threats, not even through obvious lies, just with a smile. The most dangerous people rarely look dangerous. They don't announce themselves. They don't carry warning signs. Because their greatest weapon isn't fear, it's trust. Think about it. If a stranger insults you, you'll probably forget about it by tomorrow. But if someone you deeply trust slowly convinces you that you're not good enough, their voice can stay in your mind for years. That's the difference. The people capable of hurting you the most are often the ones who first make you feel the safest, and that's exactly why they're so difficult to recognize. Our brains rely on a strange shortcut. We naturally assume that someone who smiles, speaks gently, and offers help must be a good person. Most of the time, that's true. After all, friendships, families, and societies are built on trust, but every shortcut has a weakness. Some people learn how to exploit it. Imagine walking into a room where two people are waiting. One looks intimidating, the other greets you with a warm smile. Almost everyone instinctively trusts the second person. Yet psychology repeatedly shows us that appearance and intention are often completely different things. Some people understand human emotions so well that they become exactly the kind of person others want to trust, not because they genuinely care, but because it benefits them. The scariest part isn't the manipulation itself. The scariest part is that you usually don't realize it's happening. Nobody wakes up thinking, maybe someone is slowly manipulating me today. It always begins with small moments, a compliment, a favor, a shared secret, a feeling that you've finally found someone who truly understands you. Everything feels right, and that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Psychologists describe this as gradual influence, no dramatic betrayal, no obvious warning, just hundreds of tiny moments that slowly reshape the way you think. It's like adding a single drop of food coloring into a glass of water every day. The first drop changes almost nothing. By the 100th drop, the entire glass has changed, yet you never notice the exact moment it happened. The same thing can happen in friendships, relationships, workplaces, even families. A dangerous person doesn't control you overnight. They simply become the person whose opinion matters more than your own. And once that happens, your own judgment begins to fade. Here's something fascinating. The human brain hates uncertainty. When someone consistently provides answers, advice, or emotional comfort, our minds begin to associate them with safety. Eventually, we stop questioning them, not because we're weak, because trust is mentally easier than constant doubt. And that's exactly what makes trust so valuable and so vulnerable to exploitation. Here's the twist. Not every manipulative person is intentionally malicious. Some genuinely don't realize the damage they're causing. Perhaps they grew up believing guilt was a normal way to influence people. Perhaps love was always conditional. Perhaps emotional pressure was the only communication they ever knew, so they repeat those same patterns without questioning them. Their intentions may not be evil, but the impact can still be deeply harmful. Consider this simple sentence: if you really cared about me, you'd do this. At first it sounds harmless, but hidden inside those words is emotional pressure. Now your decision isn't based on what you truly want. It's based on the fear of disappointing someone else. Slowly, your freedom begins to disappear. The most dangerous manipulation rarely sounds aggressive. It sounds loving. It sounds logical. That's why it's so difficult to recognize. Here's another interesting pattern. Manipulative people rarely ask for huge sacrifices in the beginning. Instead, they ask for tiny ones. Skip one meeting. Don't tell anyone about this. Just do this one favor. Each request seems insignificant, but psychology tells us that once we say yes to something small, saying yes again becomes much easier. Eventually, you find yourself doing things you never thought you would, and somehow, it all feels completely normal. Now ask yourself this: have you ever defended someone, even when deep down you knew they were wrong? Why? Because admitting we trusted the wrong person is incredibly painful. Our minds would rather protect our past decisions than admit we made a mistake. That's why people sometimes remain trapped in toxic relationships for years, not because they're happy, but because accepting the truth hurts even more. Here's another warning sign. You begin doubting yourself more than ever before, not because you've changed, but because someone is slowly changing your perception of reality. They don't always lie. They simply reinterpret events. You misunderstood. You're overreacting. That never happened. Over time, you stop trusting your own memories, and once that happens, their version of reality becomes stronger than yours. That's one of the most dangerous situations you can find yourself in, because now they no longer need to control your actions, they only need to control your perception. History teaches us the same lesson. The world's most influential people weren't always the strongest. They understood stories, they understood emotions. People rarely change because of facts alone. They change because of the stories they believe. That's why the greatest influencers aren't always the smartest. They're often the best storytellers. So how do you protect yourself? Not by becoming suspicious of everyone. Instead, watch for consistency. Kind people remain kind even when there's nothing to gain. Manipulative people often change the moment you stop giving them what they want. Pay attention to one simple thing. What happens when you say no? Anyone can appear kind when life is going their way. Character reveals itself when it isn't. Healthy relationships respect your boundaries. Unhealthy ones challenge them or make you feel guilty for having them. And finally, ask yourself one question. After spending time with someone, do you feel stronger or smaller? Do they help you become more like yourself or quietly pressure you to become the version they prefer? The answer tells you everything. Remember, there are still many genuinely kind people in this world. The goal isn't to distrust everyone. The goal is to understand that kindness isn't proven by words. It's proven by consistent actions over time. Anyone can pretend to be kind for a few days. True character is what remains after the performance is over. And perhaps that's the most important lesson of all. The most dangerous person doesn't always look dangerous. Sometimes they look exactly like the person you've been hoping to find. So don't place your trust in appearances. Place it in consistent actions. Because the people who truly deserve your trust never have to convince you that they're trustworthy.